Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL Podcast channel. In this episode today, we are going to be going over some news, although there isn't a lot, so it'll be a little bit shorter. And then we're going to get into some of the Halo talk that's kind of dominated our Call of Duty scene. And we're going to get into a second segment where we compare two players and say who Kyle and I would rather have going into the Vanguard season. But I think to start this one out, we're going to try a little different format this week since the news is so slow. We're not going to throw a bunch of extra stuff in there. We're going to be going over news a little quicker than normal, and then spending most of our time on the second segment and having maybe a bit of a shorter episode. But before we get into that quick news, Kyle, how you doing?
Oh, Ryan, I'm doing pretty good today. We got some positive news over the Thanksgiving weekend with Michigan winning
Oh yeah,
over Ohio State, and then we have obviously the Lions continue to lose, but nobody's really surprised anymore. And then but just the lack of the news in the CDL, and Halo's taking our lunch money. A little bit sad about that, but I'm ready to kick it off.
Yeah. So the first piece of news we've got is Methods parting with Ultra. This was a few days ago at this point, like 6 days ago, but it was right after we recorded the last pod. No surprise here. Obviously, this isn't like a shocker. Methods was benched pretty early in the Cold War year, like stage 1 or stage 2. And from there on out, Insight obviously kind of went to the moon with Ultra. They won an event. So Methods, no surprise, he's leaving. It was kind of just a matter of time. It was either he was going to get bought out and go to a new team, or he was gonna potentially just let his contract expire, which seems like what happened. But Methods leaving Ultra, good for him, obviously, because even if he doesn't get on a team, at least he can maybe pick more where he wants to go. I think he was like trapped living in Toronto, so maybe he can move to where he wants to move now. And he's off. He's off the Ultra. Hopefully, onto the 12th CDL spot.
Yeah, I mean, we just have to, wait and see what Envy does at this 12th spot. Obviously we're not like sitting in the boardroom with people like offering to buy it, or we don't even know who these potential teams are, what region they might go to. All that stuff kind of plays a factor in what's going to happen with that 12th spot, and we would, I think we would assume that Methods is going to be pretty high on the list. It seems like he's got that, TJ Halley team. Kind of they've been playing some scrims and whatever together, so it seems like they're still kind of hopeful that they're going to get in and eventually be a franchise squad. So I guess we just have to wait and see what happens with that.
Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, it's so hard to speculate because we have no idea what's going on. Like, we can say they're the most likely to get the 12th spot, but we don't even know if the 12th spot exists. So it's kind of hard to speculate. But we can move on to our State of Vanguard talk. Like we said, news is going to be shorter because we've talked a lot about the State of Vanguard over the past few weeks. But pros have started to become like vocal on Twitter and saying they're very frustrated with the game. We've even seen like the clip that sticks out to me is when I was looking at the CDL Intel page to look for any news that maybe I might have missed over the week when I was pretty busy with the Thanksgiving holiday. Um, and I saw that Skies was like posted a video where he was like had his pistol like swaying side to side while he was ADS, and he was getting aim assist through a rock. And that was like the point where all the pros were like, okay, we're done with this. Like, we're gonna start raging about the game and like how unpolished and how little time there was put into competitive. And pros have really become disgusted. So we're kind of finally starting to see them all speak out, and maybe we'll see some changes, but I doubt it.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that multiplayer seems to have really taken a back seat ever since the release of Warzone. Really, it used to be that the multiplayer experience was the cornerstone foundation of a Call of Duty game. Uh, and with the release of Warzone and the seeming attention to that, it seems like just there's been a just very sloppy multiplayer experience. Like we've seen like non-existent walls you can shoot through the
Yeah.
ground on Bocage or whatever, I believe. And I don't know, there's like just like a million different things in Gunsmith that are GA'd, and it really just seems to all be like catering to Warzone builds and stuff. It's kind of hard to see how this game could be fixed overnight, or without heavy GAs and stuff. And we're not getting any competitive rule set released or anything. It's really mind boggling to see. Yeah, I mean, hopefully there's something in the works for some of these like glaring like aim assist through a rock things. Just things that should not be in the game.
Yeah.
But I guess we just have to. I'm kind of cautiously optimistic that some of these things might be addressed, but I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, you would think at some point, since they have how much money into the league as well, that they would have to at least like fake an effort to like help it out a little bit. Because it looks pretty bad if they don't. But like another thing I wanted to mention was like the game right now is just not competitive at all with like without the GAs. Like GAs are helping to make it a little bit more competitive. But like one thing I noticed is I was playing some GBs with my friends, playing some search, and like I usually use a sub. I'm more of a sub player, so I was playing like a lot of the close angles, and like a guy would slide in on me, and like I would get first shot, and I wouldn't miss a bullet, and I would just get smoked. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like I'm getting smoked. And then we realized, like, after watching kill cams, they were killing us in 2 bullets from like mid to close range with an MP40. It's a 2 bullet kill because technically in the GB rule set, the damage mags on the subs and the hollow point bullets aren't banned. So if you're up close, you 2 bullet with an MP40. And I don't know about you, but to me, that's just not competitive at all. And technically, like they're GAing those things out, so it makes it a little better. But like, it's gonna make ranked play horrible if they don't actually fully like ban those things in the rule set if they're just GAs. Because it's just like I'm having a tough time having fun playing this game competitively. Pubs, I still have a decent amount of fun, but competitively, it's been really tough because like when you're just getting 2 bulleted by an MP40, you don't even have a gunfight, and that's like part of the fun of COD is like finessing and like winning gunfights, picking up a 2 or 3 piece. But when it takes 2 bullets to kill you, it's very hard to get a multi kill. So like, I really hope that they actually put some attention and update the rule set that they haven't updated in weeks.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Like when we were dealing with that whole when people were starting to use the Uzi in Modern
Hmm.
Warfare with those like 41 Action Express rounds or whatever, and then those got GA'd right away, and then people were upset with the AUG. It's just like I don't know. It almost seems like we just need to do away with like the multiplayer aspect of Gunsmith, like just heavily restrict the attachments and stuff. If
Hmm.
it's just gonna be like these like 6v6 maps, like, why do we need to have, like, 100 different builds of each gun or, like,
Hmm.
um yeah, just I don't understand why any gun ever besides a sniper should kill in 2 bullets or, like,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, like, an LMG from, like, super close or something, but, like, then again, those aren't part of the competitive, like,
Yeah.
weapon set anyway. So I don't know, it just seems kinda confusing, uh frustrating definitely for the GB community and like the
Hmm.
the eventual ranked community if these things aren't, put into the rule set or like the
Yeah.
restricted attachments and stuff. It's just kind of makes me not want to makes me not want to like get invested in this game, to be honest.
Yeah. I fully understand that. Like, I'm still having a decent amount of fun with pubs, but like if I was in your position where I hadn't got the game yet and I'm more looking to play ranked play, I would have no interest in using my money to buy this game because the ranked play and like GBC and everything, like you said, is horrible right now. Uh, and to kind of go on top of that, Halo has been dominating the COD news cycle again for this week. They just this past weekend, as we're recording this on Monday, held the second HCS like open event, which is like qualifying for seeding into the rally event in December, and there were 512 teams competing, making it the largest Halo event ever in terms of number of teams. OpTic again dominated the news because they beat Cloud9 again, who they played in the last grand finals, and they won back to back. They even had like a surprise team, KC Pioneers, who's Doug's team, like Doug's COD team. I believe they're not even part of the like actual HCS league, and they finished third, like out of nowhere, like almost like an AM team, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But I don't think they're part of the actual HCS, and they finished third. Formal finished top six. He lost to the OpTic team. He played E United and OpTic, lost to both, but that's pretty impressive. He was playing with, I believe, the Space Station GG team. I don't know too much about them, but they finished top six, so that's pretty impressive considering Formal just made the switch and is already playing at that high of a level. And COD pros are tweeting about it the whole weekend, saying how much better Halo is than COD right now. We've got a ton of people like Mox switching over to Halo, and a bunch of fringe pros like we saw Dave and Vortex, who have kind of been unable to break into the CDL and get a spot. They're switching over to Halo, and it seems like everything's trending in their direction. So you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I did tune in for, I was on YouTube last night around, like, 11:30, and I saw that Halo is still streaming and that it was the grand finals,
Yeah.
and saw over Cloud9. Game looks really clean and colorful and, easy. Like, they've got everything going for them right now. Like, the game's been and they're already hosting,
Hmm.
like, very well polished. The Adam Apicella and everybody over there is really got their cup of tea by storm with, like, doing everything right seemingly. It's
Yeah,
worthy of
and they've
mention.
talked about like they're gonna have at least partial crowdfunding and stuff. So like as somebody like who's like played Halo and like obviously you're someone who's somewhat interested in arena shooters since you're a COD fan and stuff, like with the crowdfunding, if you see like Halo World Championship for like $20 million like the Dota tournaments, that's probably gonna make you want to tune in for at least like the Sunday or something. Like when you see that massive prize pool and you see like, oh, Optics in it, Cloud9, names you know, like maybe Formal's competing and like you see that huge prize pool because they're able to get crowdfunding, which is something we've been fighting for in COD for 10 years, and they got it right away. And like you're gonna see that, and you're gonna be like, okay, like Halo's playing, even if it's not like 20 million, it's pretty absurd. That's like Dota numbers, but like even if they're like a 10 million prize pool, like something absurd because of crowdfunding, you're gonna be like, okay, I want to tune in and watch somebody play for $10 million. Like kind of absurd to think about, especially as an esports fan. So Halo's kind of dominating us, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. We've been down bad about this for a couple of weeks now with just why is Call of Duty not doing this stuff on launch? You know, there was that rumor that maybe they're not going to do the yearly releases
Hmm.
anymore. So maybe they're kind of like starting to see the writing on the wall from a thing like Halo. But then again, they have this this child in Warzone that's like their money machine. Do they even need multiplayer anymore? Like it's just
Yeah.
a lot of existential questions for Call of Duty. um, it's hard to see that they would ever move away from releasing a game year over year because, like we've said, you just get to recycle the battle pass and like all the microtransactions. You can half-ass like some dumb skins and some little Timmy's gonna pay like $20 to get an
Uh-huh.
operator skin or something. It's just like I don't know, like why would you ever move away from that model of like just fleecing the community for billions of dollars every
Yeah.
year. But at the same time, when you see stuff like Halo come around and just the simplicity of how they're able to like launch with an elo and launch with skins and stuff, it's very, very, very cool.
Hmm.
So I don't know, who knows? It definitely makes me jealous of the Halo community though.
Yeah, I mean, if this was in the COD community, we'd be having a field day. We'd be having everything to talk about every week with these open tournaments and stuff, and we'd be loving life and make the podcast way easier to come up with content. But kind of the final thing to do with just our news segment as a whole, honestly, before we get into the second segment, is the CDL 2022 kind of hand in hand with how Halo has their roadmap. We have no roadmap, no schedule, no format announced. We're I guess like when we make like our too early predictions and stuff, we were like saying yeah, who's going to be top 8 and stuff. Like kind of assuming that it's going to be the same format because we don't know if it's going to be a new format because they haven't told us anything. There's been no skins, like no like in-game CDL team content to kind of hype up the season and maybe like get people to see the skin and like if they saw a skin of Minnesota and like, well, that's cool. Who the heck is this? And then maybe drag them into the competitive scene. We've got pros maybe leaving for the Halo esports after the CDL if this title just is a complete disaster as it's looking like it's going to be. So a lot on the line for CDL 2022 with them not really announcing anything at all. Still,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Uh,
don't even know where to go with it really.
yeah, I mean with the 2022 season, I don't know, like we have no like really I don't know, it's just been radio silence from everyone. Like, I feel like the last time we were really excited was when the process released or something, and
Yeah.
they were kind of like hyping up this OpTic team and stuff, and then it's just been really quiet. Like we have no idea when like this kick like if there's going to be a kickoff event, when that's going to be, if we're going to have lands. It seems like we are at some point.
Yeah.
Just from all like the subtle Twitter chatter between like I saw like some like Envoy's dad tweeted or something like "See you at LAN" or something. I don't know, just some.
I didn't see that.
I was not. It was on a tactical rap video, so I'm not following Envoy's dad by any means. But I guess he said "See you at LAN" to somebody. So I don't know. Maybe obviously the families and the girlfriends will probably start leaking soon if they find anything out. So I'm
Yeah.
hopeful that we'll have some news regarding the 2022 Vanguard season to talk about pretty soon. Um, but yeah, just like no skins, no hype. We don't even know what the format's gonna be. So it's just been kind of like, how can we get excited? Like we don't even know when our competitive ranked play is going to be launched, and
Oh, and
like we're
yeah.
heading right into this, like obviously we're in the full swing of holiday season with like a lot of new people getting the game. You have people like me who's like, I'm debating, even like, should I get this game, or like can I learn enough by watching like the CDL events just to like be able to have educated conversations. I feel like I almost like, part of me feels like I need to get the game, but other parts like I I would probably play it for like maybe a half hour a day, just because I can't stand not playing like a competitive based mode. So I don't know. What do you think?
I yeah, I think it's just all a mess, especially because like, I just like this came into my head is like I'm pretty sure like the new Warzone map's supposed to release in like early December or something. So we're not getting any news for a long time now that I think about it, because like all the hype and like money is going to be put into announcing this Warzone map and making sure that goes smoothly, because that's really what they care about. So like, yeah, from a standpoint of somebody who doesn't have the game yet, was maybe waiting for Christmas, I'm like, shoot, if I play pubs and stuff like that, like yeah, maybe I'll get it. But like for somebody like you who only likes competitive based game modes and wants to play ranked and stuff, shoot, I mean, we might not be getting that till February. Maybe you can wait for the game to get even cheaper or something, and like get it later. But I yeah, it's a mess because like you would think too, like maybe they had a plan to do like a reveal stream in like around Christmas time or something, because the season was going to kick off in January. But you'd think after seeing Halo announce and like seeing how much popularity it got, how much it was dragging, if they cared about the league at all, they would be like, okay, we got to pivot and announce earlier or something. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I don't
because
think.
like they have the potential to like lose out on all this like you know new player hype. People are going to be getting the game for Christmas or like other holidays and stuff around this time, and
Yeah.
once Warzone gets them in, it's going to be hard to drag them back into competitive, and I feel like you'd lose a lot of player base on that. Um, and obviously with like we said with Halo being like so polished and stuff right now, uh, just like there's going to be a lot of different games vying for people's attention.
Yeah, there is 100%, because like people, especially once people see COD like this kind of having like a falter of a year, and it's like only Warzone and like in the arena shooter space especially. I mean, I think we've seen that like Halo's trying to take over. You had Splitgate for a while there in the arena shooter space get pretty popular. There was another game, Rogue Company, was made by like a lot of people that like were Halo pros in the past and like played competitive Halo, and like they were kind of booming for a little bit during like the summer months. And like a lot of arena shooters have tried to make games, so like maybe that could also be good for COD, because maybe they'll try to like up like their, I don't know, like their quality of game and try to like compete with them. Or it could be bad because they'll see that and be like, yeah, whatever, we'll let them take over the arena space and we'll dominate BR with Warzone. So I mean, we can move on to our second segment if you're good with that. Otherwise, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm down to keep ragging on COD.
yeah. I mean, like you said, we don't have a whole lot of news, so I mean, unless we just want to have a COD bash fest. But I mean, I feel like we've said our pieces. I don't know if we need to continue to
Yeah,
to
and
say.
I don't know if you saw the tweet, because technically, like, you're not like in control of like the podcast account or whatever, but like one of the guys who's been a follower for a while, I believe you say his name Thaders. I'm not sure if I said that wrong. I'm sorry, but he's been following like the Twitter page for a while and stuff, and like always commenting, interacting, and he like quote tweeted something from like a CDL memes page, and he was like a list of people that care more about the CDL than like the CDL itself, and it was like Salvation's Elite, the guys at best of three, like the flank, Zuma, and then he added us. And he was like, we care more about the CDL than the CDL actually does. So shout out to that guy because I think
That
it's actually probably true.
that guy's a legend.
Yeah, and I was like, shout out to him for thinking of us. But like, if you're listening, shout out to you, and it's probably true. Like at this point, I think Kyle and I might care more about the CDL than Activision actually does. Uh, but we can move on to our second segment. You good with that?
Yeah.
All right. So, like we said, news was only like 15 to 20 minutes this week. This podcast is probably going to be under an hour because the second segment isn't like a super a long segment, but I think it's going to be one that's really interesting for you guys as the listeners because you can kind of join in on the debate and comment below your thoughts on that debate because it's pretty much all just opinion and there's really no right answer, but I think it'll make for an interesting one. So, we're going to be doing, like I said early in the intro, a little bit of a kind of this player versus this player. Who would you rather have going into CDL 2022? So I'm just gonna name off two players. The first few are like position, like it's like sub versus sub, AR versus AR, and then like as we go along, we kind of mix in like an AR versus sub or a flex versus sub, and we're gonna be saying like if we were building a team, Kyle and I were building a franchise, who would we pick? Between the two players listed. So the first one I have, it was a main AR battle. I kind of try to pick players that are at least somewhat on like the same playing field, so it's not obvious. And I thought this one was pretty interesting. So I did Slasher versus Major Maniac.
Oh wow, this is a good one.
Yeah.
Um, oh, let's see. I would probably like off rip. I'd probably take Slasher.
Okay.
Um, I and like in this is more like in a vacuum. We're not protracting out more than just CDL 2022.
Yeah.
Um,
Only for this next year.
exactly, and like he's not coming into a team with anybody else. It's not like he has
That's
to
true.
fit. Yeah, it's not like he has to fit a certain like team build up. So I would probably take Slasher. Although I really do like Major as well. I think he's super slept on when it comes to ARs. And just like overall like how he's kind of a chameleon, how he kind of like fits into like whatever a team needs, he can do it. Um
hmm
so I don't know, but I do like what Slasher brings to a team in terms of leadership. I think we saw him have a good end to the Cold War season. Coming back into the fray, and uh, he was able to really put up some good numbers from what I do recall.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would probably lean like probably like a 60-40 split to Slasher.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that, and like you said, that's something that I want. I don't really know if I said that clearly, but I want to make sure that's clear. Is this is only for this coming Vanguard season? This isn't like a franchise player. You lose them after this year, so like obviously, like some of these, especially later, I did a very young player versus like a vet, and obviously in that situation, you're going to choose the very young player if it was for multiple years. But we're only doing for Vanguard, so it's just a 1 year deal. You're signing them to a super max to start your team. I think I'm going to agree with you on Slasher because I think Slasher also like he comes with a system in place. So I feel like the way that you're gonna play COD with him. Like he has his system, and maybe it's not always right, but like at least you have like an established way your team is gonna play. And I feel like Major molds more to the players around him. I think he's an excellent player, but just as like a Maniar staple, I think Slasher is just like the perfect building block because he's a leader too. And I don't know that Major Maniac is an IGL or exactly, but I lean towards Slasher as well. But I also agree it's like a 60-40. Like it's a close split. It's not a blowout by any means. All right. Next one I've got, it's a sub battle. Two young guns, two kind of unproven. We're looking for them to both take a big step. I did Afro versus Neptune.
Oh, this is a really good one.
I think they're
Um,
both like we think both of them have super high potential, but like it's not
yeah,
technically like a guarantee, not proven. We're expecting big years out of them, so I think this is a
yeah.
good comparison.
Um, I don't know. For me, I don't know. I'm gonna buy into the hype, and I'm gonna I'm gonna go with Afro.
Okay.
Um, Again, this is probably closer to like a 50-50 split on like what I would do. Um, I just I really like Afro's upside. I think he's got like a super fast aggro pace. He's got really good movement from what we've seen as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, he was really talked about even before he broke into the franchise league as well. Uh, but this is kind of difficult. I really think you can't discount Neptune too quickly. Um, I think that he's really got a lot to offer in terms of movement, and obviously his gun skill is pretty good as well. I'm gonna side with Afro in this one.
Yeah, I think. I mean, if you've heard me talk, I think I'd almost be like people would call me as a liar if I didn't say Afro because of how much I've been hyping up Afro as like my guy this year, like my dark horse to be like an MVP caliber player and all that. So I think it'd be pretty wrong of me not to say Afro. But like when I came up with this one, I was like, this is a good matchup because like they're both in the same boat. Like I said, like they're both kind of those players that are. We know they have the raw talent, but it's a matter of if they can step up and like fulfill that talent this year. And I lean Afro because I do think he has a higher ceiling, but at the same time, I think Neptune might be the safer play because I think like we saw Neptune have a very consistent full year in Cold War where he was a good player, whereas Afro we saw him have like come in for those last like event or two and he played really well and like he looks like a great player, but we didn't see it for as long. So I feel like Neptune's the safe pick, but I'm going with Afro because I think he has a higher upside in my opinion. Uh,
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It's pretty evenly split, but
yeah.
I'm gonna go with you, and I'm gonna ride with Afro here.
I think this next one we might split on though. And I'm taking my bias out as best I can. These are the only two I really have kind of a bias towards because for some reason, I guess I put my two of my favorite players back to back. But I went with the flex battle here. I thought this was an interesting one because of the 100 Thieves old duo, Kenny versus Priesta. I thought this was another pretty good one because I feel like they're players that are on kind of the same level.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I like just the other week or just last week we were talking about Priesta and like if he's over or underrated going into
Mm-hmm.
this year, and it seems like he's Priesta's really like an X factor, like to whether his team's gonna be successful. But we have to kind of take the team aspect out of it and like who would we rather have going forward? Uh, just for this year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm gonna and like, obviously Kenny has a great World War II behind him in the past. Um, this is another kind of difficult one. I'm gonna have to put my biases aside, and I'm just gonna say Kenny.
Are you gonna say Kenny?
Yeah, I'm not thrilled with it. Not that I wouldn't want Kenny to start a team around.
Yeah.
Um, I just do like Priesta, like what he brings to a team in terms of like chemistry and vibes as well. Uh,
Yeah.
not that Kenny doesn't either. Just saying like that's something that I would really look for in Priesta as well. But I'll probably betray myself and say that I'd take Kenny.
I mean, yeah, I actually think that this one, in terms of the three we've done so far, is the most similar players as well, too. Because, like you said, I think they both bring a good vibe to a team. I think they're easy teammates to play with. Like everybody says, they love playing with them. I think that they're both guys that we know. Like if both of them were going to be a full time sub, they can do it. I even think both of them, if they had to, could be a full time AR, like we saw Kenny do, and I think Priesta could do that as well. He did it for a little bit, Black Ops 4 in the start of the year, but the team was really bad when he was doing it. Uh, and then we also know that they're both great flexes. Like if in terms of an actual true flex, when you think of that, you think of guys like Gunless, Cammy, Cellium are obviously like the like right up there as well. But Priest and Kenny are like two of the true flexes we think of where we know if they pull out a sub, we have confidence. If they pull out an AR, we have confidence. So like they're two of the most comparable players. I think I am going with Kenny though, because I think like we've seen Kenny like last year Priest struggled for a lot of the year. And when he was using sub, it was really, really bad in the beginning of the year for Minnesota. And then when he switched to the flex, he improved. But I just think Kenny's a little more versatile. I think he can play the main probably better than Priesta if he had to, and he can also jump on a sub and be a top player. Where I feel like Priesta is always very good. I don't know if he's ever hit that peak of like top like Kenny. Although in Black Ops 4 he was pretty nasty. Uh, he was even pretty nasty in IW before his big come up. But I really think that I'd take Kenny here. I mean, obviously there's a little probably a little bias involved there, but I don't think you can go wrong with that at all with either player. All right. Next one. I had to do this one. I did the King versus the Prince, Scump versus Envoy, because I think it's another interesting one. Like it was kind of a debate last year of who was the better sub on OpTic when they were going through their struggles, because we saw both have flashes, we saw both have their big struggles as well at certain points. But I went Scump versus Envoy. You got any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm a little bit more biased towards I for a single year, I want Scump.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, I mean, maybe if we were reversing this and we're like, who would we want for the next 3 years? I would probably take Envoy. But in the framework of the topic and the question, um, I just think Scump has a lot. Scump's really got a higher ceiling right now, um, in terms of what he can bring to the SMG
Hmm.
team. Uh, I don't know. I'm gonna ride with the king here.
Yeah.
Um, but I really do love Envoy as well. I don't want to throw any shade at him, but in like I said, in the framework of the question, I'm gonna go with the king.
Yeah, I agree with that. To me, so far of the ones, this was the easiest one for me. I kind of put it down because I thought it made for a good discussion between the two, obviously being the duo for 2 years. I go Scump as well for just like a game by game basis because I feel like Scump's play style fits in every game, no matter what. Like the classic kind of heavy pre aim, heavy slaying sub, um, kind of turning into more of a creddy now. Really good search player. I feel like his style fits more where like Envoy obviously has that more ratty kind of hitting the flank, hitting the pinch always. Like sometimes it's gonna like absolutely kill you. Sometimes he's gonna pinch and get a three piece, and it's gonna win you the game. Always flanking and search and destroy, which I like that playstyle because that's kind of almost my playstyle when I play as a sub, especially in search. I'm kind of always hitting pinch and trying to hit layer outs and stuff. So I really like the way Envoy plays, but I think Scump is also easier to fit into a team if I'm building it. I feel like I can insert any players around Scump and he just fits. Whereas Envoy, I feel like you kind of almost have to build your system around him and get specific players because of his unique playstyle. I don't necessarily think it's like a blow, like you have to choose Scump because I think in certain situations Envoy could easily be better. Like in Modern Warfare for pretty much the whole year, Envoy was definitely a better player, but then I'd say Scump kind of had the edge in Cold War. So they're comparable, but I'm going Scump as well.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, next one. I think this is another interesting one. This is where we get off the kind of player like position versus position. There's a couple more ones like later on where it's like similar positions, but this is a flex versus a main. I guess one of them is playing flex this year also, even though I'm going to still consider a main. I did gunless versus skies.
Mm,
Kind of a split because I guess technically I think skies is playing flex this year, but I'm considering him a main. He's a main AR.
yeah, interesting one. Yeah, I guess this really speaks to who you. I mean, like coming into a team for 1 year. Who do I want? I'm gonna ride with gunless here.
Okay, this might be the first one we split because I think I'm going to ride with
Yeah.
skies.
Okay. And not really for any like super entrenched reason. Um, I think Skies would be a fine player to have. I just think when you get a borderline S tier flex talent, or at least like in what they can bring, I think there's a couple flexes that are still better than him. Uh, you really got to ride with it. Um, and I don't, I just I've never been a big Skies homer either.
Me either.
Uh, but like I know he's got a lot of good stuff around his name. A lot of people like enjoy playing with him. He's not a bad teammate by any means. I just
Oh.
I think I'm gonna go with Big P here.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from on that one. I've thought honestly for this one I was really on the fence and I don't know. I guess if I'm building a team, I'm taking skies as well because it comes to like a lot of what I like look at with a team is I feel like so many of these players are so interchangeable with skill. It's honestly mostly the success of teams comes down to like the chemistry, and I think skies fits with more players. I think his raw talent is like up there with Gunless as well because we know Gunless's raw talent is some of the best we've seen at his peak. Um, I also think Gunless obviously brings the versatility more than Skies, so I can see that argument. There's just something about Skies, and I feel like having that just staple main AR to start a team can always be helpful. I mean, Gunless definitely definitely is a guy that I would like to start a team with, but I just think the vibes in Gunless can very easily not get along with teammates, as we've seen a million times. And it's kind of a lazy argument in some ways. Like I'm saying on myself, because Gunless, that's always the argument with him, is like he's nasty, but he's a bad teammate. But I mean, I think we've seen him improve that. I don't know. I feel like I want to go with Skies because I feel like he's a little bit more upside pick as well. Because I think Gunless is more steady, but I think Skies maybe has a higher ceiling. Like I don't know that we'll ever see Gunless be in the MVP voting for the CDL ever again, but like Skies, we've seen him in the MVP voting in that inaugural year in MW. So I'm going with him just because of upside, I think.
Yeah, that's a fair argument.
All right, next one. Another kind of cross position battle. We've got a sub in Kleenex versus a flex in Illy. Two young
Oh,
players, kind of. I mean, Kleenex is probably coming off a better year than Illy because Illy had more of a down year, but I feel like Kleenex has had kind of the hype going the opposite way for him with the potential talks of him leaving Ultra, and then Illy's had his hype going in the up direction since all the streams with OpTic people have been loving his gameplay.
yeah, shoot. I guess you kind of got to like protract how these players are gonna like fare in Vanguard
Mm-hmm.
since we're only getting them for 1 year. Oh man, this is really interesting. Um, and like how much do you value like having a sub over a flex?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Um, I'm gonna probably lean with Kleenex.
Okay.
Uh, and mainly for like positional worth. Uh, and how much is Illy's like vibe and stuff just been because like he's under the like the green wall now. He's got like
Yeah,
the green wall of
excited where he
gas,
is.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, not that and obviously like Illy was really like highly touted going into Cold War. People were like putting him on the short list for MVP. He
Mm-hmm.
kind of had an off year. Not really all his fault either. Just kind of like poor, uh, poor circumstances surrounding like the whole Empire team. Not really like seeing eye to eye. But that's all in the past now. But I would lean towards Kleenex. He has a super high ceiling, but he can also drop some super duds as well.
For sure.
Um, and I think I've covered that specifically in previous talks we've had about Kleenex. But
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely I would probably lean like majority leaning towards Kleenex. But interested to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I definitely think like obviously I'm a person that values subs more than like your flex or your AR, like you said. But the reason I think I want to go with Illy is because of your last point there with Kleenex having such like peaks and valleys. Like he has some low games. We saw Illy have some low games last year as well, so don't get me wrong. But from what I've seen from Illy in the preseason, I really think what separates him as well is like these are two obviously disgusting raw talents. Like we know Kleenex can be a top sub. Like Kleenex can be a top 5 sub in the game. And I believe Illy can be a top 5 flex in the game, even though the flex position is loaded, like we said, with like Gunless and Cammy and Kenny, Priestess, Cellium. Like it's loaded. But I think Illy could find his way into that top 5 flexes as well because I think the communication is what might separate him. I don't know that Kleenex is the best communicator. I've heard he can go silent a lot of times in games. Like when you hear listens-ins with Toronto, like Bance is absolutely carrying the comms and the leadership of that team because he's, I mean, unreal at it. But I think Illy, like we've seen, he's like one of the best search and destroy shot callers, and he really seems to know what's going on the map, and like his communication is just elite. And then I don't know, I really think his gun skill, I think it's up there with Kleenex. I could think you could argue that Kleenex maybe has more of a gunny, but I don't know. I think it's not too far behind, and I really like Illy's leadership in comms.
Yeah, I mean, definitely you make a lot of good arguments there. So interested to hear if anybody chimes in the comments here to see to maybe offer some additional insights or whatever into who they would take. But yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think you can really go wrong.
I think this is one of the closest ones that you can't like if you're telling me like I'm saying Illy, but if you're telling me Kleenex, I'm not gonna like there's some of them here like if I don't know if you would have chose I don't know really all these are pretty close. Like there's some debates out there where like I'm gonna be heavily on one person, but like this is one of the ones by far where I can really see you going either way. Kind of like the Gunless and Skies one. Like this is a really tight debate. But we can move on to this next one. This is kind of a funny one as well. I kind of went with the Scump Envoy one. This is a cross position one as well. I went with Krim versus Hook. Uh, kind of how we saw in the offseason. There's the whole Crim versus Hook story. It's another interesting one to me though, because obviously if this was a multi-year, you're probably going Hook, but this is for only Vanguard, and I think it's closer than it would have been in the past. Because if you just had this before Cold War, I think it would have been Hook, no doubt, because people are talking about him as an MVP player. But with his shaky last year, kind of off the game and stuff, and people like questioning if he really wants to play and all that, I don't know. I think it became a lot closer.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Hook here. Uh, and not for any really good reason except for that I value his like slaying upside potential.
Hmm.
And I don't know, just more so what he brings to a team in terms of like just raw gameplay. He is more like, soft spoken. He might not be all up in the comms, doesn't have like the whole leadership of Crim, doesn't bring a system like Crim. Uh, but in terms of what I think that Hook's going to provide for my other three players to be named, I think that um, yeah, it's definitely close. There's a lot more, you know, things that Crim has riding for him, but I'm gonna go with my gut and I'm gonna take Hook.
Yeah, that's obviously a good pick. Raw talent wise and slaying wise, he doesn't leave you with a question mark of if you're going to have slaying on your team when you start a team with him, because he can carry that weight. That I don't know that Crim can carry and be like the number one like slayer on his team. Uh, Although I will say we started out picking the same four off the rip, and now I think we're going to split on three in a row. I think I'm going to go Crim here solely on the fact that when you have Crim on your team, you finish top four at champs. Like, it's just what you do. And like I feel like Hook, obviously he won champs with Crim, they won together, and he maybe brings a higher skill ceiling, but like when Crim is on your team, you just win. That's just like what happens. You always find a way to be in the top four. So for that reason, I think I'm gonna go Crim just because it's that intangible thing that we talked about in the past with some of the players that we had listed. With Illy, like his communication stuff. I just got to go with Crim because like I always bet against this guy. Like in my picks, I always feel like his teams are never like the best team. Like with Empire, you always saw me having them take like second or third at events and then they'd win. I had them taking second at champs the year they won and then they win. It's like you always pick him to be like second, third, fourth, and they always find a way to just be one higher than what you think they're going to be. So for that reason, I'm taking Crim. It's 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 kind of opposite of what my other argument was. Like I took players with higher skill ceilings, but now I'm just going with a safe one. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe it doesn't make sense, but
yeah,
I'm going with
definitely.
them.
Yeah, I mean, like I listed off all the things that Crim brings to the team, and like
Yeah,
obviously you're probably not getting those in the same amounts that you are with Crim. It's definitely just something that like in my gut I feel like I'd rather have Hook. Um,
yeah. I
but
mean, he
yeah,
brings MVP caliber play where I don't think Crim is ever going to
exactly.
win a regular season MVP for sure.
Right, and I mean Crim's gonna be, just like the background fiddle player for whatever team he's on that's succeeding. I don't think he's ever really gonna get the massive accolades, but whereas with Hook, I don't know. I feel like remember stage one, he was like
Oh yeah,
dropping nukes on the map, like
yeah,
it was unbelievable. But then obviously he had all those issues, um, with the team and a lot of drama that maybe we never got the big payoff on it, unfortunately. But
yeah,
yeah, just I don't know. I guess just agree to disagree on that one.
yeah,
That was a good one though. I
yeah. It actually like it was also part of the meme with how they were going at it, but it also worked as a decent matchup. Like it wasn't like a shoe in for either side. Uh, we've got three more to go through, though. I think they're all pretty good ones still. I think all these have actually gone pretty well. I just kind of threw them together and was hoping that they'd be decent matchups. This next one is kind of a battle of MVP candidates, actually. Like, I didn't ever want to include Simp and Abezy because I feel like Simp and Abezy automatically get chosen, or like Cellium. They automatically get chosen. So I didn't really want to include the Faze boys because it makes for kind of a dumb argument. But this one is like those other MVP candidates, two subs going back and forth. I have Hydra and Shotzi. Because I feel like the community lean Shotzi, especially being on OpTic, and like I feel like we're probably gonna lean Shotzi just because like he's a little bit more proven and has an MVP. But like Hydra's right there, and people are calling him like predicting him to be MVP this year. So I thought it was an okay debate without including Simp or BZ.
Yeah, it's definitely a good one. but I'm gonna have to ride with Shotzzy. We've seen him
Yeah.
be, you know, an MVP caliber player for two straight titles his first 2 years in Call of Duty. Um, and I don't know if he's actually peaked yet, which is kind of scary.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I guess the same could be said for, any of these young SMGs that, Simp, Abezy, Hydra, Standy, all these people like that haven't, we can say like, have we even seen their peak yet? And that's super alarming for,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
just wondering what dominance we could be in store for. Um, and I'm gonna go with Shotzi. I think that he is right now going into this title clearly a step above Hydra. I don't think that's
Mhm.
too controversial to say. Um, but interesting to hear if you have any other arguments to provide here.
Yeah, I'm also definitely going with Shotzi just because of like you said, he is an MVP already and he's a world champion and he's more proven. Uh, I just felt like there was almost no other sub that you could really put on Shotzi's level except for like Simp and Abezy, and then like it's basically impossible not to take Simp and Abezy because of like they have been in both champs finals. They both have 2 rings in 3 years playing. Basically, like they both just absolutely dominated the scene. But I thought Hydra was like that guy that like he maybe has potential to be Shotzi level or even better. Like we know he has that potential. It's just a matter of if you're willing to take that risk, and I'm not willing to take that risk when you have something as surefire as Shotzi out there. Like I think Hydra is a surefire top like 6-7 sub, like pretty much guaranteed unless something crazy happens. But like Shotzi is like it's not even a question mark. You know he's slotted in as a top 5 sub basically every year, unless like I said something just odd happens with the team. But yeah, I'm going with Shotzi on that one. That's one of the easier ones. I just thought maybe one of us would bold pick Hydra or something because he's like probably the best comparison if you take out Simp and Abezy. Uh, next one though, I went with these two. They do play the same position, but I went with these two because I feel like they're very unique in the fact that they're two of the only submachine gun players that are like IGL type players, and that's Attach and Bance.
Wow.
Because I feel like they're both like we don't think of them as super high skill ceiling players. They're obviously both nasty in their own right, but they're not like at that Simp, Abezy, Shotzi, Hydra like top
Right.
echelon. But they're also like maybe the vocal leaders of their team, which is unique for a sub player.
Yeah, this is a good one. Who do I want on my team though? That's interesting. Uh, I might ride the band type.
Okay,
Um, but I'm not really sure. Like, I really like
yeah,
Attach,
you
as
know I love
well.
Attach.
Yeah, and I definitely want to hear more arguments on this. Uh, but I mean, this is just one where you really got to go with your gut, really, because it's not like these guys are bringing like a super high slaying upside. Where obviously like one would be the better pick, on a statistical level.
hmm
Um, so it's more just like it's like future projecting and what your gut says. And I'm gonna, oh man, I don't know. I'm really sitting on the fence with this. I might actually go with Attach, and
Yeah,
I'll just leave it at that, and I'll hear arguments now.
yeah. I like initially my gut says Attach because like I always say he doesn't lose his ones. Is the most clutch player alive, and he always brings that to your team. But at the same time, like Bance, I think, is the better leader in game because I think Attach brings a lot, but like Bance might be the best leader, like if you include mains and everything. Like his in-game leadership and comms are absurd. We heard it so many times with Ultra. And also way back in the pod, I was like saying that Bance was really bad back in like Modern Warfare and stuff. And I said they should have kept Classic over him on Toronto Ultra, maybe my most infamous take of all time. Uh, because Classic had such a nasty year to finish MW. He was really good in that team. And then after Bance went off in stage 2, I said I'll never insult Bance again. I like made a promise on the pod to never insult him again. So I feel like I'm like forced to pick him and everything. But I think I'm gonna stick with Attach because of the fact that I'm somebody that really weighs heavily on clutch factor and like search and destroy prowess. I think Attach is the better search player. He doesn't lose his ones, and I think his clutch factor. I mean, we saw him win 5 straight maps on bans to win a title this year, and like he has like the best comebacks ever. He had 2 best of 7 reverse sweeps on the OpTic Dynasty to win a match. Like he has the best of 9 reverse sweep on Bance in Toronto Ultra. He's just like the most icy player alive. So for that reason, I take him. Now, if it was maybe like a player who was clearly a higher skill ceiling over him, then I would probably take that other player just because like it's hard to like say that the clutch factor matters so much more if the player's clearly like more skilled. But I think him and Bance are kind of on the same level. So I'm going with Attach just for that clutch factor. But I don't think you can go wrong with Bance, especially if you're building your team with some European players he has chemistry with, because their chemistry seems to be unmatched.
Yeah, there's really, you know, two good sides to this argument, and I don't know if there's any right or wrong answer. And like you said, there's you know, the clutch factor and everything. It's just it's super hard, and it goes more to what you value. And I think we both sided with Attach there. Just I don't
Yeah.
know, for reasons like you can't really put them all into words.
No,
It's just
this
like
is like a fully intangible one.
yeah, it's just like it's just more of like an I like this guy a lot, so I'm gonna ride with them. So
Yeah. All right, last one. I basically did this one because I wanted to like see you get emotionally torn, I think, on this one, because I think it's
oh
gonna
no.
happen. Uh it's a cross position battle, Octane versus Standy.
Oh,
I think it's like 2 of maybe arguably your favorite players. Am I
oh.
wrong?
No, you're not wrong. Um, you know, two guys that I really like. I ride for them. I don't know, man.
And
This
they're
is
actually
gonna
like as players also like there's a debate you can make for both sides.
yeah. Um, I I really gotta. I'm gonna go with the hot hand. I'm gonna go with Standy here. I
Okay.
think like as much as I love Octane and like I really want to see him succeed and like and all that stuff and uh you know I hope he has the right team around him this year to do that, but it's been 2 years and uh I don't know. I feel like Standy's got a really super hot hand. He's uh a fringe S tier player. Like if you're going like
Mhm.
6 S tier players, Standy's got to be right up in that like 5, 6, 7, 8 range. Um And I don't know if I can pass up on that, whereas Octane might fall fall further down and um, who do I want on my team? I feel like Standy's got really good comms too. Um
Mhm.
his gunny is unbelievable. Pace and like game sense is really good. Like when we were making that like composite pro of like a few weeks, like maybe a month back, where we're like, okay, who we want like this person's movement, this person's gun skill, everything. Uh, I really just think Standy crosses off so many of those.
Yeah, he's in the
You know,
debate for so many.
yeah, he ticks off a lot of those boxes. Um, so I'm gonna ride with Standy here. But it was definitely uh for me personally, it was more hard. But I really think there's one right answer here, and I'm not gonna be too you know I guess I'm not gonna get too emotional over like not picking Octane for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
But
I
I don't
think
know. I don't know if you have anything contrary to say to that.
I also think it's like you said, you really can't go wrong with either. I think there's also like the intrigue with Standy is the fact that you think there might be something else there that's untapped. Like he could even get better because he's so like new to the scene. He hasn't even played his first full year in the CDL. So like there seems like there could be that untapped ability there. And on the team that he's on, we know he's going to get unlocked this year, so maybe we'll see it. But Octane also brings that like Standy could maybe, I'll never say that a guy can't be a 1-year wonder because of Dylan Codd from BO4. Like people were saying he was the MVP of BO4, and then he literally disappeared off the scene and was never like really good again. Don't think that's going to happen with Standy. I think he's going to be absolutely elite again this year. But I also think when you compare them where they are within their position, I think that they're pretty similar. Like you'd probably say Standy is in that like 4 to 6 or 7 range for subs, right? Because you probably put him behind Simp, Abezy, Shotzzy for sure.
Yeah,
And
sure.
then somewhere in there that mix with like Hydra and him and like Kleenex and those guys in that like 4 to 7 range ish. And I think you probably put Octane around that like 3 to 5 range for ARs because I think as of now you probably have to put Arcitys and Insight ahead of him. But I think Octane falls in that like 3, 4, 5 for the main ARs, which I feel like 3 and 6, like third best AR and sixth best sub are pretty similar since there's so many more subs. Like that's a pretty similar position to be sitting in. So I feel like they're actually like more even than you might think because people might like with recency bias be saying Standy's absurd. I am, with all that said, gonna go with Standy with this pick, but I'm trying to make the case that like Octane isn't an absurd pick here because I feel like people have like I know you haven't because you're a big Octane fan, but I feel like people have just forgotten, and he talks about it all the time that Octane is still really good. Like
Mhm.
just because he was on Surge and they didn't have team success doesn't mean Octane's not nasty. Where like I know you haven't forgotten that, but like, it seems like a lot of the community is just like they're like don't even consider like 100 Thieves, LA Thieves to be a top team this year because like people have just written off Octane because he's had such bad team years. But I am going with Standy, but I think this one is very close. And like you said, there's one clear answer, which I'm assuming since you chose Standy, that means you think it's Standy. But like, I don't think it's as clear. I think Octane could actually be a good pick here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Octane's for me it just gets lost in the 2 years of like
Yep, for sure.
total mire that he was in. But I definitely I appreciate you highlighting that, he's probably right in the same um placement for position as Standy would be in
Hmm.
terms of like what tier tier ranking each position, like where we would put these people.
Yeah, they're
Um
probably both
yeah,
bottom A,
exactly.
top S of their position, or I'm sorry, bottom S, top A of their position.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm kind of I'm still gonna I don't think that swayed me anyway to go towards
Yeah,
Octane, but I like you said, I think that yeah, just maybe he got a little bit forgotten.
yeah. Like some people probably heard that and they're like, "Why is that even a debate?" Like because there's so much recency bias towards Standy, and in the opposite direction, there's so much hate towards Octane recently because of his team success. And like a couple years ago, I mean, Octane was viewed as the best AR in Black Ops 4, like no doubt, maybe even the best player. It's just crazy that people have forgotten so fast, I guess. But you ready to move on to our down bad sports moment of the week and wrap things up?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, you're kind of a mixed bag this week. Usually it's just all down bad because it's just mostly Lions time, but I know I'll get into mine first because it'll be a lot quicker and then we can let you talk about your kind of mixed bag this week. But I mean, for me, it's obvious, really like it's early basketball season, so there's not much to talk about. The Bucks are on a 7-game win streak. Uh, so that's awesome. But the Colts game this week really had me down bad. If they won this game, they were pretty much in my opinion, almost locked into the playoffs and maybe could win the division with how bad the Titans have looked recently with all their injuries. And they had a 24-10 lead going into halftime, and they had the ball coming out of halftime, and they were on a drive. They just were about to hit the red zone. They were rolling on that drive. Looked like they were about to score another touchdown. And then for some reason, they decided that Jonathan Taylor didn't exist. They ran, or I'm sorry, threw the ball like 10 straight times, and finally the offensive line got tired. Eric Fisher, who's been abysmal this year at left tackle, let Shaq Barrett run by him untouched, and he hit Wentz in the back, forced the fumble, and then from there on out, all the momentum. Instead of being a 31-10 game in the middle of the third quarter, Tampa Bay went down, instantly scored a touchdown, made it 24-17. Tom Brady worked his deal with the devil a little bit more and like stared at the refs after every throw until they threw a flag. They got like 4 defensive pass interferences to give them touchdowns in the third and fourth quarter, and then the Colts almost returned a kickback as time expired to tie the game up, but they ended up losing by 7. They put up, I mean, a hell of a fight considering that they're playing the defending champs. So I was down bad that they lost that game, but man, they look good. They're like right there. Every good team that they've played, they've had a double-digit second half lead and lost. They seem like the Lions a little bit in previous years. The Colts, I saw if the Colts had held every double-digit second half lead they've had this year, they'd be 10-2. That's how many double-digit leads they've blown, and they're 6-6.
Uh, that's got to get you down bad though.
Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah. Well, I don't know. For me, it's got to be well, like first, like you said, it's a mixed bag this week with U of M finally in a year where they can make the playoffs. They
Hmm.
finally beat Ohio State, and so now they're going to play Iowa in the Big Ten championship game this coming Saturday, and that will be Surely if Michigan wins, they'll be in the playoff, and if they lose, then no Big Ten team will probably be in the playoff because there's
Yeah.
not another viable team, in my estimation. And so yeah, that's really got me pretty excited this week. And obviously, the down bad is reserved for one Detroit Lions team. They have a long-standing tradition of playing the noon kickoff game on Thanksgiving, nationally televised game, and in a game that it seemed like maybe they had a decent chance of
I thought they were
performing
gonna win.
well. They're playing the Chicago Bears, who are not any remarkable team themselves, and somehow they just find a way not to score the ball. Uh, it actually Goff had a couple throws that looked decent. Like he actually threw the ball more than 3 yards down the field on a couple plays. But they once again lost the game, and on a time expiring field goal. I believe the final score was like 16-13 or something. Um, just super puts a really bad taste in your mouth going into Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
I I I sad ate my way through like 2 plates of turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, all the fixings, and proceeded to be you know kind of sad all night.
Yeah,
Just
they should have won.
yeah,
I even tweeted you and I said
yeah,
I'm giving you my personal endorsement to have a Dan Campbell fired tweet.
exactly. But we're not gonna waste that. I'm still I'm doubling down on my 3 years.
He might
Um,
not make it 3 years himself, so you might
oh
get
yeah,
let out of
no,
that.
exactly. But it looks better for me if I say that I'm doubling down. Maybe I don't know. So yeah, just Lions once again make a mockery of themselves on national TV on a national holiday, and further ruin or kind of put a damper on my Thanksgiving. So that's got me down bad.
Yeah, I mean, I was also with you. I was cheering for Michigan. That's kind of my college football team. I'm not a huge college football fan, but I was really after Michigan won that game, then it was Badgers winning there, and I was like, please, just I kind of want the Badgers to lose because I feel bad cheering against the Badgers being from Wisconsin, but I would have been cheering against them in the Big Ten championship because I want to see Michigan make the playoffs. So I was a little bit glad, which sounds bad to say, as I'm kind of a Michigan first fan, but like I'll cheer for the Badgers. It sounds weird because they're rivals, but I'm from Wisconsin and I'm not a huge college football fan. So like either way for me is good. But I was super glad to see Michigan win. I'm always cheering for them over Ohio State, and I'm really cheering for them against any team they play. They're kind of my college football team, so we actually have a team in common. Although
Oh wow.
you're a lot more into it than I am for sure. Uh, but I was hyped to see Michigan win. As I always followed Michigan, like mostly back in the Chad Henne, Denard Robinson. That was like my era of Michigan
Oh
football, and
yeah.
like I'm just used to seeing them blow the big game. So like now that they have it in front of them and they're playing not as strong of a team in Iowa, I like it feels like it should be a shoe in that they win, but it's Michigan, so I'm never gonna say it's a shoe in that they win until I actually see the clock hit zero and they have the lead. Uh,
Yeah,
but
exactly. Well, you know what they say is that Michigan never loses a football game; they just run out of time.
yeah, yeah.
So
Hey, that's a good saying. You can use that for the Lions too, maybe. The Lions just run out
right,
of time. They would have won all
right.
these games if they had an extra quarter. All right. You ready to wrap things up a little bit? We actually did go a little shorter this time when we said we were going to.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. I think that's gonna do it for this one. It was kind of a fun episode. Instead of doing so much news because there really wasn't a lot, we went into a little bit longer of a second segment, and I think it was a pretty fun one. Kind of having that debate. I'd love to see what you guys think down in the comments. Obviously, you guys are going to disagree with some of, especially maybe you disagree with the ones that Kyle and I actually agreed on, and you think the other player was the one to choose. So give us some reasoning and maybe drop a couple of comments down below on who you thought you should take in certain situations, because obviously opinions are going to differ based on maybe one of those guys is your favorite player, or maybe you just strongly think he's better. There's really no wrong answer on it because who knows? One of those players might suck this year. We don't know. But that's going to do it for this one. We always, as always, really appreciate you guys listening and tuning in on YouTube or on the audio platforms. If you are on the audio platforms, drop a follow on there. We'd really appreciate it. And if you're on YouTube, drop a sub, drop a like, comment down below. Like we said, that's our favorite part, is interacting with the comments and seeing all the new commenters and the community growing. So we'd appreciate if you did it. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one next week with hopefully some more news next time. See you later, everyone.